Welcome to the SE Journey, where we take you on journeys from across the spectrum on just how the hell we became systems engineers. My name's Zane Allen, and he's Chris Sprague. I said that backwards. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome back to another edition of the SE Journey. My name's Chris Sprague, and with me, as always, my co-host Zane Allen. How you doing, Zane?
Great, Chris. Good to be back. We won't mention how long it's been, but we'll let the listeners do that math. But yeah, it's great to be here. Excited about our guest today.
Yeah, finally doing another episode right in the middle of you getting moving and having all this chaos in your life. So we figured we'd bring it to the episode here. And
of course. When a better time, huh?
Yeah.
Moved houses, set up an office, maybe quite literally right before this. So we're going to see how this goes.
Awesome.
But very excited to be here.
Yeah, it's excellent. And we're super excited to have a friend, guest, colleague with us. We've been trying to get this episode done for 23 years or so, I think, with our friend Tristan Todd. How you doing, Tristan?
Yeah,
I'm doing great.
Before we had the podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on the podcast. This is awesome.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you here. Like I said, finally get this one going. Get it out here for the summer. I think it's a good time to sit and shoot the breeze with you guys. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, so with that, generally what we do on here, Tristan, if we come on, we have a guest come on, share their story or their SE journey and how they got here, and just share whatever you're willing to, and we'll kind of, poke at it, ask you some questions as you intrigue us as we're going along. And,
Sure.
kind of just for you and listeners out there, our real goal here is, Zane and I kind of started this because we didn't know what an SE was when we were in IT for many, many years. And so our hope here is not only to get some other SEs to join in and chat with us, but those that are out there maybe in IT that don't really know what a SE is, a systems engineer or a sales engineer, and maybe how you got here, what kind of, things bring you into this role, who's good for this role, because we really want to evangelize what we do to those that don't know about it, right? So just kind of a recap for everyone. So we're going to say something, Zane?
That is, nope. That's the goal, right? Or sometimes people just tune in to kind of see other people's experience that may also be in the industry, right? Just kind of compared to what they had gone through to get here. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
that's about right, though.
Yeah. So just to kind of get you started there.
And I'll say Tristan, that is behind the scenes stuff, probably the most prepared guest we've had here so far. We could almost.
He's
He's got notes. He's got thoughts. He's got his whole background. So I'm not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to. I expect a really good episode here. We're going to learn a lot about our guest here. So
yeah, not only the most
it.
prepared, probably the most intelligent person we've had. So
it might have something to do with the 9 years in the Coast Guard as an officer, maybe, right? Just to kind of
yeah. So yeah, to get you started, Tristan, just get rolling. How did you become an SE? Where'd you start before this, and that journey.
Sure. Well, I started out, Zane mentioned, I was in the Coast Guard 9 years of my life, learned how to drive ships, stationed all over the country, spent time in Alaska, finished my Coast Guard career in Houston, Texas, and I moved to Portland, Oregon without a job, without a civilian career, without really a plan. Just I figured I'd move to Portland and I would figure it out. My wife was kind of in the same boat. So I came to Portland and literally got a random phone call from Quest Communications, and they said, "Hey, we'd like to recruit officers out of the Coast Guard and give you a career." And they gave me a job. They didn't ask what my experience was. They just said, "Oh, junior officer, academy grad. Let's talk. Is this salary okay? Are you in?" And I was like, "Job." insurance, awesome, let's do it. So I managed a crew of equipment installers in central offices, in phone system offices. My crew was in charge of putting in dark fiber back when the co-located network provider space was really hot. So we lit up a bunch of dark fiber all across Oregon and Washington, and I enjoyed it, but it was very hardware centric. And I have a degree in computer science, and I said, well, IT seems kind of hot. This is like the early 2000s. I said, I want to see if I can get a job in IT. So I found a job managing a help desk at a Nike supplier, a supply chain company. I managed a help desk for a couple years. And then I was part of kind of an industry layoff. There was a period of layoffs, kind of downsizing in the .com market. I'm not sure a bubble bursted, but my job evaporated overnight.
Yeah.
I didn't have a strong network, but I knew a guy, and I was friends with a guy that worked at a big regulated utility company. And he said, hey, Tristan, have you ever installed updates on a Windows OS before? And I said, yes. And he goes, do you want to be responsible for patching a bunch of servers at a public utility? And I said, yes. Is there insurance? Do I get paid? So I did that for a while, and lo and behold, one day somebody said, what do you know about virtualization, and do you want to be a virtualization admin? And I haven't looked back. Worked in IT, worked in enterprise for a while, and then at one point I said, I really liked VMware. I liked the people, I liked the culture, I liked the tech, and I worked for a couple of years to interview and finally get a job as a PSO guy at VMware. Which led me to do a lot of travel, a lot of installs. I enjoyed it, but I wanted to kind of see my family, like raise my kid. So thankfully, an SE spot opened up, and I thought I was going to be a salesperson. I didn't really know what an SE was. And when I realized that I got to talk to lots of different customers, learn their use cases, and help solve problems with tech, it was kind of a natural fit for me to become an SE. And I've worked in various SE roles. I've worked for commercial enterprise and globals SE roles. I've been a specialist SE. So I've kind of had all the different SE hats on at one time. And I failed as an SE a couple times. Like I didn't mesh well with the right account exec. I've had account execs who they're still family to me. So I understand kind of the dynamic, the struggle, some of the unwritten rules about SE life that maybe aren't out there in the books.
That is an interesting one, the whole meshing. I don't think we've had to we've talked about that too much, because I kind of share some similar sentiment in my early days. You just think it's going to work, but that partnership has to kind of make sense, right?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting topic. But I just like that Quest. So Quest, is that true? They like to hire Coast Guard officers? That's seems like a small niche of people.
Well,
that's what your hiring pool is. But anyway,
back then, utility companies, particularly phone companies, hired military academy grads and junior officers, because somebody in their early 20s who you can assign a crew of 20 of 30 or 30 people to, give them a budget, give them a mission, and say, get it done, and not expect them to have to ask 200 questions like, how do I get it done? But just complete the mission. So I was wired pretty well for that kind of lifestyle. And it was fun. I got some really good leadership management experience. But if you've ever worked in the utility space in the phone company, it's complex. And I enjoyed it. I learned a lot, but I only lasted about a year and a half. And then I tried to find one of those cushy IT jobs I read so much about.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And then when you became SE, just another interesting point. I'm sure maybe you have something to Chris too. Did you have any preconceived notions of what it meant? It sounded like you did it for the necessity, the life balance, right? The work-life balance.
Sounds like he thought he was becoming a salesperson.
Well,
I'm curious about that as well. Yeah.
How do you get your first SE role? Well, typically an SE or an account exec sells you on it, right? They're good at selling, right? Most SEs and account execs. And for me, it was people in the sales community who I knew and respected, and in some cases loved, convincing me that they'd seen what I did as a consultant, and said, you could be a really natural SE. You'd be really good at technical sales and pre-sales. And I guess I was really interested to find out if that was correct. Well, let's face it, I working at VMware back in the day with 20 or 30 assigned accounts, and an account exec who I really enjoyed working with. It was a pleasure. I had lots of really good mentors at the time. So I became an SE. I had lots of people that were coaching me and supporting me. And I had great accounts, established accounts, and then prospects or prospective customers who were very fun to work with. They asked lots of challenging questions, but they had lots of use cases where I could kind of have an impact. But I came at the role as a former customer, someone who had seen a lot of SEs, and I tried to embody the traits and the behaviors that I saw in the SEs that I really liked working with as a customer. Show up, do what I could to solve problems for the customer, and not make it a sleazy kind of sales relationship. Really focus on show up, learn the use cases, learn to solve problems.
I like that too. That was an approach I took when I first started. And I did consultancy before I got in, but it was trying to take that approach. Right, I'm here to solve the problem, be consultative, bring past experiences maybe to the problem, and help out. Yeah, so that's great advice.
Yeah, it's
one of the terrifying
because
things yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I was going to say I had, for much of my life, I'd been told by a lot of people I should be a teacher or a trainer of some sort, right? My brain always went to like school teacher, right? And while I really respect and love what they do and loved a lot of my teachers, it wasn't something I necessarily wanted to do, right? And then when I was in IT, I did a lot of that training kind of stuff in IT, but then you start hearing like, oh, there's these sales roles, people make money in sales, go to sales, but I just know who I am, just the pure sales role, being a salesperson, and some of the stuff that I respect they do isn't necessarily for me either. So it wasn't until, like you said, I started, when I was in IT, started working with SEs and AEs, and they start telling you, oh, well, there's this sales engineer. He's kind of the technical teacher, trainer arm of the sales team, right? So it took me figuring out all that to finally go, okay, maybe I am interested in that piece right there. Right. So.
Yeah, probably the worst thing for me was, I watched the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, right? About guys selling, I think what were they selling? Insurance or something. And it was a brutal
land. I think it was a sham.
Yeah, it was just a brutal existence.
Right. Or condos or something. It was something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was something that was terrible because it was a very they got a list of leads, and some of the leads were good and some were not. And it was kind of a desperate existence. And for a while I was really intimidated because I thought some people call the trade of being an SE or an account exec, they describe it as carrying a bag, right? You carry a bag of wares and you go visit customers or prospects and you try to sell stuff that's in the bag. And initially I was terrified by that because I was intimidated by the fact that you have a quota, you have to hit a number, there's objectives, there's measurement, there's rigor. And I was worried, well, what if I'm not good at this? Like, am I going to fail? Am I going to lose my job because I don't pull in big accounts or big deals? And the reality is that as an SE, if you really fixate on the customer, you learn the customer outcomes that are needed, the problems that need to be solved, and you absolutely just fixate on that and don't worry about anything else, it all works out. It all sorts itself out. Chances are if you make the customer your mission, you make their mission your mission, that good things will come. Deals will close. You'll get recognition. You'll make money.
Yeah.
Once you get past that kind of misconception, I think being an SE it's a pretty fun role. It really is.
No, that's a great point. Yeah, is kind of much focus on that. I had colleagues when I was going into I could never have a sales number. I could never go into sales. And to your point, taking your approach, it's like, well, you take care of a network. You're solving problems in the IT. It's really just kind of that externally, right, for many different customers, and maybe my time in consultancy, and at MSPs, I already had experienced it, but it's not just sales, it's not just Glenn Clary, again, Glenn Ross.
Yeah,
I don't know if I told that story on this thing, but 5 years of my old company, they gave you a catalog with gifts in it, and gifts, whatever. You got to pick something because you were there 5 years, and they weren't the best things. And I was like, I don't want any of these. And then I saw a set of steak knives, and I thought that's going to be the most hilarious thing. So I chose the steak knives because that's second prize, right?
Yep, that's a good reference.
Yep.
They're like $20 steak knives too.
Yeah, that's a good reference. I love it.
Third prize, you're fired.
I love it.
So it's funny to have people that get the reference because maybe the younger guys don't. But if you don't know that and you are listening to that and want to get into sales, yeah, go watch that movie. It's a great movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Just know it doesn't have to be like that. To Tristan's point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Tristan,
I think
was it when you were at Quest that you started becoming the virtualization admin, right? It sounded like they said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And you said yes, which is kind of a recurring theme we get on this show. A lot of us, we were kind of, just said yes to different things in our careers to build out our knowledge and things and work our way along, right?
Well, I was actually a contractor at another utility company, a large Western States power company. I can't really mention them by name, but they supply all of our electricity in the Northwest. And I was a contractor, and I got hired for a full-time role. And the first decision I had to make as a full-time employee was, do you want to be a Metaframe admin? Back in the day, that was Citrix, right? Or do you want to do this VMware thing? Because nobody else wants to do it. Nobody else understands it. And I knew enough about VMware at the time to know that it was like you could take a box under your desk and make it do the job of lots of different boxes. And you could do that in the data center. And that's about all I knew. But I really did not want to be a Citrix Metaframe admin because you had to talk to users, which is awful. I mean, so I chose kind of what I thought was going to be the more interesting, less stressful path. And thank goodness I did, because it was a career defining decision, quite honestly.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a pretty good one for you.
It's been fun. It's been fun.
Yeah, good. So so you moved to I take it next you went into VMware, and why don't you tell us a little bit about what you did there, all that awesome stuff.
Sure. Well, I kind of learned at that point in my career, having been part of a reduction in force or a company that kind of melted down and losing my job, I didn't have a professional network and I didn't have a work portfolio. Like I didn't have examples. I didn't have measurable outcomes that I could prove to other people that I was, maybe a prospect or a good hire. So what I did was at a large utility company and then a large financial services firm. This was back in the days that you could take, acres of servers and storage networks and reduce them to aisles of, racks of VMware hosts. And it was back during the era of x86 virtualization, physical to virtual, P2V virtualization, where you could show, massive amounts of power consumption and space consumption and real estate and all of the things that come with that. And you'd show your value based on, hey, we just took 4 aisles of servers and we condensed it down to 2 racks. And so what I would do is I would go to my leadership and I would say, we need to invest in this technology, this project, we need to spend on this, or perhaps you need to promote me because here's what you were spending on this physical big iron, and here's what you're spending now that we're virtualized. And so back then it was very easy to kind of capitalize on those benefits of virtualization. But what's interesting is I did it at 2 large organizations, and then I said, I really want to join the mothership. I want to join VMware and do this for lots of other organizations. So that's kind of what made me jump off the cliff and go from the customer land to, I think some people call it the other side of the table, the SE side of the table, the vendor side of the table, the dark side, if you will.
Yeah.
It was because I wanted to have an impact, not with a single organization, but like more orgs, more people in the world. So
Yeah. go build things, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to circle back around. I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but I just think it's an interesting angle, and I kind of mentioned it already, but we don't talk about it much, is that partnership. You become an SE. And it sounds like maybe it was initially up front where you had the problem. I'm just going to guess. That's how my story goes. But any thoughts around why, or any things you learned from that scenario? I don't know. Just, for those out there that maybe, as Chris said up front, looking to get an SE and have to understand there is that kind of partnership, that marriage almost, if you will, that you have to consider.
Well, yeah. I mean, in some cases, so the SE account exec relationship. I've been in SE roles where I had one account exec that I was partnered with, and I've been in some roles where I had multiple account execs.
Yeah.
And there's always a relationship with an SE and an AE where it's almost, in a way, it's an arranged marriage, right? You don't necessarily have the luxury of picking your account exec. You don't get to pick your salesperson.
Yeah.
And the best account teams that I've seen, account SEs and account execs, are ones that can read each other's minds. They can finish each other's sentences. And it's very much like a marriage or a strong partnership. You have to have kind of implicit trust. You have to have respect. You have to know kind of what people are thinking, your teammates, what they're thinking. And they have to know your strengths. You have to know their strengths. And it's really tough. And that's just on the professional side. On the personal side, you could be spending hours with this person in cars, on planes, in hotels, in Starbucks, waiting for a customer meeting.
Yeah.
And so you better like this person. You better respect them. You better, find them interesting or whatnot. And when you deal with somebody who maybe has an abrasive personality, maybe they don't deal with stress the way that you do, maybe they don't, maybe they're just not wired the way you are, it can make for a really uncomfortable working environment, because you're very much, your success is tied to that person. So I'm not going to say I've quit a couple of account execs back in the day, and I'm certainly not going to name names, but a couple of account execs that I worked with, I probably wasn't their first choice. They weren't mine, and we parted ways on good terms, but it wasn't a really good matchup. But I've had some account execs that I've worked with that absolutely, they still get a Christmas card every year, sometimes a fruit basket. They're friends, family for life, and typically those types of relationships,
Pretty cool.
You'll see account execs and SEs who they'll be a team at one company and then they'll move to another company, or they'll reform at another tech company. And there's a few account execs who, if they called me today and said, "Hey, I've got a role, I need an SE, do you want to be my person?" I'd be darn tempted. Obviously, I really like where I work now, so I would probably try to get them to come over to this side. But you meet those people, those natural sellers, those natural influencers, and you kind of get addicted as an SE to those people that can really convince and sell and influence. So
yeah, and if you can get into a cadence with them, right? I had one rep. I just knew when to take over. I knew he had the story he could tell. I knew when to weave in, and even had explained that to a few SE managers. Like, "Oh, why are you letting the rep do all that? Shouldn't he do the tech?" I'm like, "Because he's telling the story. I know exactly when to roll in there. I can take notes. Then we switch. Don't worry about it."
Yeah, I had an account exec.
That's interesting.
I had an account exec at VMware. I'll call her out, Carrie Clement. She knows I'm going to do this. She's probably one of my favorite account execs I've ever worked with. She could do all of her own technical demos. She knew all the technical value props. She was a former SE turned account exec. And it was very fun to work with her because in a lot of ways, she was an accomplished SE who decided to become an account exec. And she taught me a lot of lessons about how to be a better SE. And a lot of times she was self-sufficient. So what we learned to do was force multiply. Some SE work she could do herself, and then she would hand other duties off to me, and we covered a lot more ground where we didn't always have to be on the same call in the same room. That was a fantastic experience.
Yeah, that works really well.
Yeah.
You take these, I'll take this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There you go.
you pointed out a couple of really good points there, Tristan, that I just want to circle back. One is to make sure you like that person. You'll be spending a lot of time with them. So, if you're new to this and you're going to do some SE interviews to become an SE, or heck, if you're already an SE, of course you'll talk to the hiring manager, but make sure that you're interacting with those people you're going to work with. Ask them what teams you'll work with. Make sure the sales rep or account executives you'd be working with are part of the interview process. And if not, like my first couple of jobs when I first moved over to the dark side, Tristan, that's what I call it too. Although maybe it's the light side now. I'm not sure exactly, but the other side with good cookies. When I first went over to a reseller, I was calling that account exec, even between meetings and stuff, and building a relationship with an account exec beforehand to understand whether we liked each other. Building a relationship only helps you get through the interview process, all that stuff, right? So I think that was a really good point that you brought there, and I just kind of wanted to add to it. To make sure you are interacting with those people you're going to work with and know it's going to be a good fit. Right?
Sure. I guess the other thing to...
That's why I want to double down on that. I don't think we've ever brought it up on the show.
Yeah.
It's great. Oh, go ahead.
The other thing to realize that in sales orgs, right? I don't want to say there's a lot of turnover, but in tech sales, typically, an account exec or an SE stays in role for, 6 months to maybe 18 months. And then you change, you get a new account list, or you get a different account exec assignment, or you refocus on a different sector or region. And what I failed to learn at the time, I probably quit a couple of SE relationships, account exec relationships too soon, or I could have waited it out, I guess. I could have just said, some orgs that I work with, every 6 months you got a new rep, or you got a new sales assignment, or a new focus. And so what I appreciate now is universally across the tech sales industry, there's a lot of change. And sometimes it's seasonal. Sometimes it's every fiscal, half or fiscal year, there's a change. So if you're in a relationship, maybe it's not it's a forced marriage. It's not a perfect one. Sometimes it makes sense to kind of wait it out. Maybe the tech and roadmap are great. Maybe the SE leadership is awesome. And it's just, you got, you're paired with an account exec who you don't love hanging out with on the weekends, whatever. Sometimes it pays to wait it out. Sometimes it pays to be very open with that account exec and be very vocal with your feelings. Like, hey, I love working with you, but these 3 or 4 things annoy the crap out of me. And I've learned that as I've matured in my career, that perspective and just accepting the fact that, being an SE is awesome. You don't need to become best friends with your account exec, but you should be very vocal in your feelings about your, if you've got trust issues or you've got respect issues, you should probably bring those out and be professional about it. And if it ain't fixable, maybe sometimes it makes sense to wait it out.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, because sometimes you can fix it, right, or find the source of the problem. It's great if you could be super friends, but you don't have to be. You just have to work together. You just have to be a good team.
Yeah.
Because it does reflect too, right? I mean, it shows, I think the customer can see if it's a good team or not.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I've had that rep too that maybe wasn't very present, wouldn't show up, those sort of things. And it was just me, right? And I even had years later, like, oh, I always thought you were the AE. I'm like, well, I had to act like it. So, yeah, thanks. That's, I guess, a compliment, or maybe that's an insult. I'm not really sure what that means.
Yeah.
I thought you were just a stupid sales guy.
More good points of wisdom there that Tristan was saying is like, change is inevitable anywhere, but definitely change happens on this side pretty frequently and quickly. Yeah. So I was going to say, as in general, as SEs, we probably like change, or at least deal with it very well. And expect it. And I actually am one of those people, like, I've moved my office around just because I want a little bit of change. I don't want to be in the same spot all the time. Yeah. Or you move houses or whatever. It's like time to change.
That's the only reason I did it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we
grow
used to,
weary. We used
to. What do they say? If you don't like your quota, you don't like your assignment. Wait a year.
Well, that's. Right? I was just gonna say. My old manager used to joke about that, or maybe it wasn't a joke, but he's like, "Hey, let's see how it goes. Come January or next year, it's gonna change anyway. So worst case scenario, you live it out. Maybe it's what you wanted, maybe it's not, and it's gonna change. right?
Well, I mean, we're on a team. Well, now, Chris, I don't even know if we mentioned on the podcast, you're now on the principal side, but this role's changed. I've only been here 2 years, and I think it's changed 3 times, right? Just the org and our mission and what we're doing.
Yeah, I've been in this.
I know your role changed.
Yeah, yeah. If you work in tech long enough, I think to enjoy life in tech, the people that have the best attitudes and are have the most positive outlook on tech and roadmaps are ones that just deal with that change and just accept that, what stuff happens, and that's just the way life in tech is. It can be frustrating sometimes, especially if you've built something up, if you have maybe a long-term roadmap thing that you're doing with a big customer, and it's not something that you're working on that's like 2 or 3 months in creation to ideation. It's something that's maybe 2 years or 3 years out, and so those kind of changes that happen at the 6 and 12-month marks sometimes are disruptive. But to be in tech, let's just face it, technology changes at a rapid rate. Technology orgs and priorities change at a rapid rate. And it's just, it's what keeps it spicy.
Yeah. It does for me.
I like that. Yeah. Cause things change the good ones are probably disruptive to their industry too. Right. I just, I don't know if this is on the same vein. I think that's important. We do change. There's disruption, but hopefully, I like organizations that keep to the core of what they are, if that makes sense. So, what they're striving to be. That doesn't mean the actual tech or the actual thing they're selling, because that's going to change. But, you see some of these orgs that do 700 different things or pivot what they're focused. Oh, we're this, we're that, we're this, we're that. Just to go with the winds of change, if you will.
Yeah.
Anyway, so just personally, I like the organizations.
Yeah. Or
I think I'm at one now that has that core mindset of what we are, and we deal with the stuff around us, and try to keep that.
Absolutely.
Or you become that's a great point. I was gonna say, or you become big enough that you can make a parent company called Alphabet and just have your other companies do that stuff that spins up and spins down really fast. But
keep everything in beta, and then if you get rid of it, it was never real anyway.
But no, being core to what your core values are and what you're striving for, absolutely.
I would argue they're very still core to what their values are, and that's knowing everything about what your behaviors are. But whatever.
I thought it was don't be evil. Okay.
Don't be evil.
Don't be evil. Exactly. We're not getting that sponsorship now, Chris.
Okay. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll have to cut that out. Okay. So moving along. So
cut it out.
Awesome.
Cut it out for us.
Yeah.
We're not going to get the hits anymore. It'll show up in the Google searches.
I'm going to get copyright infringement on YouTube. So Tristan, you had a note here that I'm interested too. We'll finish up your journey here. And then talk about a couple other things. But after all that awesomeness at VMware, unless there's more you want to share with that, feel free. But after that awesomeness that you had at VMware, you wrote in here you took a sabbatical, but it wasn't really your typical sabbatical, right? So I'm just curious on your thoughts, what you want to share about that part of your career.
Yeah, sure. Well, I deal well with. I think I deal well with change, and I kind of like change. I was at VMware in various different roles for about 6 years. And when you work for a big software company, at the time, VMware was the 4th biggest software company in the world, north of 35,000 employees, just kind of prevalent in most large IT orgs. I enjoyed it, but at a certain point I said, wouldn't it be fun to work for a smaller tech company that could maybe make a sharper turn? Maybe less bureaucracy, maybe less overhead. So I left VMware, and I in a 2-year time frame, I went to work for 3 different startups. So 2 years, 3 tech startups. I went through a tech IPO that failed. It was terrible. Ultimately led to a bankruptcy and lots of drama. But I worked for a couple. I'm sorry.
So not yours, hopefully.
No, not my
Sorry.
bank. No, the startup. But it was fascinating because the whole time I was out on that sabbatical, I was learning about startup culture. I was learning about fail fast methodology in product development and product sales. But what it generated is it generated an appreciation for maybe a more balanced scorecard in the way that I evaluate potential orgs that I want to be part of. Like how do you pick a good employer? How do you spot a tech company that is a good place to work? And it used to be I picked based on, is it a strong logo and is the money good? And that was it. But after a couple years in startup land and an appreciation for all the goodness that I had at VMware, ultimately I left those startups and went back to VMware for another 5 years or so, in 5 fantastic years. So I split, I'm what's called a boomerang. I left VMware, went down to startup land, tried real hard to make it work, didn't find something as cool as VMware and went back. And they welcomed me with open arms. I stayed another 5 years and enjoyed it. So, I think,
Okay. So it's 5 years after all those. Oh, okay. I didn't know
yeah.
that.
Yeah. So I wish I could say I had like 10 years of continuous service as a VMware employee, but it's split up into 2 different chunks. And I'm really proud of the decisions I made. I mean, I wouldn't call any of the decisions I made on my sabbatical mistakes because I forged fantastic relationships. This industry is small enough. Everywhere you go, you meet people that you met, previously on your journey. So I work with a lot of people I used to work with at companies like Tedgile and Nutanix and Tintry. Some of those folks are coworkers again here at Pure Storage, and I love that. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
They have a similar perspective, but I think there's no disrespect for people that go and try things and sometimes try things and then fail fast. That was certainly the case for me during my sabbatical. I tried 3 shops and I kind of failed fast 3 times, but I learned a great deal in the process. And ultimately it's how I got to where I'm at now, and I'm loving life, having fun. Trying to do good.
Is that there's you probably you go do those things, but you probably learn a lot, right? Like sometimes it's just good. I saw this a lot in IT as well. Like you get in a culture and things are done very culturally and the same over and over. And sometimes it's good to just go get those other perspectives, right? You probably learned a lot just from those couple of years.
Yeah, I think I did. Some good lessons. Some things that were positive and some things that were downright negative. But definitely took learnings away from it.
And I've always said sometimes you learn the most from the negative stuff or learn the most from failure, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you do. So yeah, maybe don't chase the money necessarily. Not saying that's not a positive, but like you said, that balanced scorecard, I like that.
Yeah.
There's many reasons to pick a company, and it probably does take time and some wisdom, if you will, of going out there and experiencing it.
Yeah. Do you want to go into that scorecard a little bit, Tristan?
Sure. Yeah, I actually I've been formulating a blog post on this topic. And trying to articulate like my scorecard. I'm trying to learn how to be a blogger right now, so don't hate on me, but I'm trying. But
yeah.
So it used to be, I was about kind of the brand and the money, the cachet of the brand, and then was it good money? And what I realized is I really need amazing, impactful technology. I want to represent technology that is a force for good in the world, that it's adding tremendous tech value, it's adding tremendous business value. I love ambitious roadmaps, clearly defined roadmaps, but companies that have great tech, but they're building even better tech. It's on the horizon. Obviously, a solid business that is, clearly communicated to everybody within the org and within the industry. Here is our business. Here's what we're doing well. Here's where we're maybe seeing some struggles. But just transparency is key. You never want to know, our company is failing, but nobody's talking about it in public. It's a secret. Probably one of the biggest things that I look for is community and culture. And it's really hard to define. You hear people say things like grit, and culture and community, and it's hard to define what those are until you don't have them. But I look for collaboration. I look for mentorship, people that are fun to work with, people that inspire you, people that are willing to be your critic, your mentor, your coach. And I love that about certain places where I worked. Where I work right now, there's very strong community and culture. If I called anybody that I work with on a regular basis and said, I'm struggling, I need help, they're going to drop what they're doing within reason and help me. Just because they want to see me succeed, which I think is great. And then finally, I really like, I do enjoy an impressive, inspirational leader, someone who can speak eloquently, articulate concepts, and lead the troops and inspire you to kind of, go bigger. And then probably the sixth thing on my scorecard is I love free office supplies. So I need an employer who, lets me order office supplies or has a supply locker that I can raid when I'm at the headquarters or whatever. No, I'm just kidding.
That's an office. That's funny.
You get the idea, though.
This is the largest paperclip collection of anybody I know.
I really like fluorescent yellow highlighters. I need a closet full of them in my home.
Yeah, that's great. I was going to say to any listeners out there, I mean, that's a great scorecard right there to steal some ideas from, right? If you're looking for a good company, your next role, someone, because like to your point, we've kind of said this without saying it directly, you get to these roles and you want to interview the company just as much as they want to interview you, right? Make sure it's a good fit and all that. Yeah. So go ahead, Zane.
And that might change over your career, right? Sometimes you got to get in.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to do that, but absolutely evaluate more than that. I had that plan when I was trying to be an SE. I was like, oh, I'm going to be an SE, and I would look at roles. I was like, oh, what does it be to Cisco SE? I did a lot of networking. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, they want 5 years. They want this. And then I had this plan in my head. Okay, if I get to this reseller, then maybe I can get to this. Luckily, I got the leapfrog because I did do some community events, and I was it's not pure, but my previous employer, I was a advocate for it and all that. That's how I got in there. But yeah, I had kind of a plan and then go through the roles. And sometimes you can go through roles at a place too, right? Like I think you did that, Tristan, right? Oh, I'm going to do this role. And then I'm going to go see what SE's like.
Yeah.
Maybe SA's a thing. You're an FSA now. Yeah, see the different aspects of it and almost have different companies, but different roles inside a company can be different perspectives and be a different learning experience.
And I think it's
a lot
important.
of avenues to go, but I like that balancing.
Yeah, I think it's important when you're a candidate for a role, and during the interview process, they say, do you have any questions for us? You make it clear that you have a scorecard, and you're interested in certain things and articulate, hey, I'm looking for collaborative culture, or I'm looking for inspiring leaders, and position the question like, are there leaders within the org that inspire you? Can you tell me about that? And those are the types of questions that I get from candidates today that I love, because it shows that someone's being very thoughtful about making a big decision about maybe a role or a career change. Yeah,
don't be afraid to do that. I like that.
Yeah.
You're actually going to impress somebody, probably more likely. Or if you don't impress them, you probably don't want to be there anyway.
Yeah.
So, that's a great point.
You're going to look more thoughtful.
I was scared most of my career to do anything like that in interviews and stuff. So, and you really do need to communication, the more you talk about what you're wanting and vice versa, the better it's going to be.
Yeah.
So I assume then, Tristan, jumping to conclusions here, that scorecard that you just kind of went through is what got you to where you are today in your current role and company, title. Tell us a little bit about your most recent transition, your title, and what you're doing today.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a field solution architect focusing on platforms at Pure Storage, and I kind of came upon the position in an interesting way. I know a lot of Puritans. I've known a lot of Puritans. I was first introduced to Pure back in around 2009, right after Pure exited Stealth. And I've co-authored a couple of white papers. I've presented at Pure events. I've been on, Pure YouTube videos. There's still some out there on the interwebs. And I've always respected the innovation and the tech. And generally, just all Pure people that I've come into contact have been great. It was a time in my career, maybe the specter of the changes happening at VMware, the acquisition by Broadcom, kind of had me thinking about whether I wanted to work for a smaller more agile tech company, one that had maybe a respected brand, but also a place where I felt I could make a difference. So the role that I have now is, it's interesting. I support the Americas. I focus on virtualization and platforms, technology, conversations, and work streams. And I talk to small customers, large customers, some of the biggest global companies in the world, some of the most mature, some of the most immature companies. And I fixate on learning kind of what pains them, what makes them successful, and then figure out how does Pure align? How can the integration that we do with the VMware stack benefit them? So you never know what you're going to get in my role every day. Sometimes it's 4 conversations that are like clockwork. You've been briefed and prepped. You know what to say, what to demo, what to talk about. And some days you have 8 meetings where you show up and the conversation goes in a completely different direction. Chris and I were on a really fun call today where we were doing some strategizing with one of our sales teams and trying to give them ideas for how to carry about a conversation with a really interesting customer. So I love where I work today. I love what I do. It's a challenge. It makes me I stress out every day. It makes me stretch and grow a little bit every day. And by the end of the day, I'm absolutely gassed. I'm ready for the weekend. I feel like I've contributed. And then Monday morning, I'm energized to get up early and do it all again. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Nice.
That's awesome. And I can tell you, like, it can't be overstated the impact you've had at Pure already. Like, so many people feel it. You've been an awesome addition. Like I said, you're probably the smartest guy we've ever had on here. And no, Tristan, obviously just a awesome guy, obviously, as we're talking here, but has been a big impact at Pure already. So I'm glad. I'm kind of glad, just in a way, that we've been trying to get this recording done for months and months, but almost glad it pushed off a little bit because you've had more time to understand, get settled in your role, understand about Pure and all that, and share this story. So.
Well, the more I learn about, the more I feel like, I've been in the role since September of 22, and the more I think that I know the role and I know the tech and I know the roadmap, the more that my smart teammates, who they're the smartest in the industry, they remind me that I don't know as much as I think I might know. So that's another cool thing about working for a really edgy, future-focused tech company is when you have coworkers that constantly redefine what awesome is. You guys, I work with you all the time, and you constantly surprise me with your approach, with some of your insights. And to me, it's like sometimes I feel like I have imposter syndrome every day. And then I realize when I corner one of you and ask about imposter syndrome, I realize, well, you kind of feel the same way sometimes. So I like to contribute, but I work for a company of rock stars and contributors. So it's it's fun. It's good. It's challenging, but it's fun.
That's one of the first things I noticed too. Is it's great because that's how you grow. It's like the kid when I was a kid on the at the school in the basketball out playing basketball. It's like you play with the kids that are better than you. You don't go beat up on the little kids, right? You go play with the older kids that are better than you, and you get better yourself, right? That's a way I grow. To your point, like imposter syndrome is real. Like we'll get it because there's just some people that are fantastic, and sometimes it's hard to see how good you are internally, right? Other people have to tell you sometimes, but I think it's a great way to grow, and that's what I love. It challenges me every day. Sometimes I get a little bit stressed because of it, but that makes me grow and get better every day. And then we've got the really scientific guys over here that, the engineers that build some stuff. Then you're just like, all of that's over my head, right? Like that is some phenomenal smarts. Some of those.
I was at a recent company all hands sales event where there was this guy that kept winning all the awards and getting pulled up on stage. I can't remember his name. It's like Zane Allen, something like that. And he kept winning all the awards and getting brought up on stage and recognized. And I was like, how can you compete with a guy like that? How do you grow into those shoes? And so, that's the kind of culture that we're in.
Just talk a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no. But it gives you, things to shoot for and people to learn from and try to emulate.
No, it's just as long as you're doing that, though, right? Be careful to. You're not being envious. You're like, oh,
Right.
how did they get that? I would like to get under that board, and I've had to reflect that in my career too. Like, why am I not where I think I should be? Why am I not getting this? Oh, okay. Well, maybe these are the things I need to go do, or this is the stuff. If this is important to me, I have to put this forward. Or anyway.
Yeah, I've always learned
It's a balance,
that.
right? Because you say imposter syndrome, and I've always gotten criticized on that. Like, oh, why don't you celebrate your wins? And why are you so worried about, what you don't think you contribute? You're smart. I'm like, look, it's a process. I have to say, hey, there's things that I can still work on. This is how I can build to get better. I want to be around the smarter people in the room. I was in an IT job before I came over that I was like, I was the smartest guy in the room. That's a problem. Let me go get around a bunch of other smart people because we're never going to grow. This is how you get stale, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to be the smartest IT guy at this company. I'm out.
You guys probably have figured this out, but I love the opportunity to, cheerlead the accomplishments of others and call people out that are doing great work and influencing me. But things that I respect and I learn from, I like to call out. In my career, I've seen a lot of people do amazing things, and I've failed to put them on a pedestal or call them out, put them on blast. So at this phase of my career, I'm really big on when somebody does something for me that's impactful, I make sure to thank them, and I make sure that their leadership knows about it. Yeah. And I make sure to give them recognition, and it fuels me. It really does. It makes me really happy, and I like to think that it's a crazy busy world we live in. We don't spend enough time saying thank you and recognizing others. So it's one of my things that Friday afternoon I've got time on my calendar block to just do appreciation notes. So. Encourage everybody to do that. Friday afternoon, block 30 minutes to send thank you cards or thank you notes or workday input. It's good stuff.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, this is a team, right? You're not on an island. Even if you could go figure out something better. We've never had him on here, but Joe Hughes, I'm just going to call him out. He's a guy that I knew from my old company, and just the things he would do. I was like, hey, man, this is great. You're helping me out, because I knew I could go to him with something. Maybe I could figure this out, but you're going to have the answer in 15 minutes, and you're going to put me on a good path. You're going to give me why I shouldn't go down this road. And he's very appreciative if you're appreciative. He's like, oh, okay. You're worth helping.
Yeah.
Because you're not just taking, right? I guess that's what it is. So I like that thank you card. Thank you card Friday.
Yeah, and
brilliant.
I don't have a stockpile of actual cards. It's mainly just emails, Slack messages, and workday notes. That's about it.
You're not getting those free off supplies, huh?
I
talk to the company.
I wish I could say.
Just highlighters, no cards.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's funny because I do have a stack of them right here. right here.
I wouldn't even know. I don't even
I think I
check
had
my
that same
physical
stack.
mail
Yes.
anymore, so I don't even know what comes in card form anymore. So
I don't either.
Plus, nobody wants to see my writing.
there you go. Yeah, there you go.
That's not a thank you note. It's a problem I got to solve.
Is that a prescription?
This is a prescription. Am I sick?
That's awesome. So, couple last things, Tristan, to touch on. If you're willing and have some time, but
Sure.
So something that came up, you've kind of already talked about your field solution architect role or FSA role. I just want to dive into that a little deeper in kind of a general thing. Like, we call this the SE journey, meaning sales engineer, systems engineer. But Zane and I have talked a lot about, while we call it SE, there are lots of titles for an SE role, right? SA, SE, whatever it may be, consultant, engineer,
Different from company to company.
CE. Where I'm going with that is all three of us now have different titles than SE, right? None of us have, say, systems engineer or sales engineer in our title, but we're all part of the systems engineering org. We're still in the SE org, right? So just your thoughts on how you've moved up to this field solution architect role, maybe what the difference is, what the differences are, right? For any of those out there looking to come into SE and where they may grow and the things that they could move into, right?
Sure. Well, an FSA, and field solution architect, solution architect, the role is really kind of a specialist SE role where I definitely am focused on pre-sales conversations. I'm focused on influencing net new logos to adopt our technology. I'm fixated on large organizations being happy with the services that we provide, but also unlocking maybe hidden value or hidden capabilities. I carry a quota, right? I cover the Americas, and my success is tied to a certain percentage based on the success of the sales in that region, the Americas. One of the things that I do, I've been an SE for a long time. I'm not saying that I was a great SE or whatnot, but I survived a lot of battles, a lot of sales campaigns. And so part of my role is to, in some cases, partner with SEs to maybe SEs who are stuck in a conversation or an opportunity and they're looking for new ideas, or maybe SEs that are newer in their career and they're kind of trying to figure out, how do I approach this? How do I become better? And if I can impart, some tips and tricks, wisdom with a lowercase, show them how maybe I would go about solving the problem. That's part of my role. Enablement, mentorship is a really big part of what I do. I love to see when new SEs come on the payroll and I find out it's their first week. I make it a point to reach out to those newbies and say, hey, I've been here for 6, 7 months, 8 months, whatever it's been. Let me know if you need any help of any kind. If I can help you with your career or navigate the halls of Pure, let me know. But I think working in the SE org, everybody kind of has the same mission, which is obviously to grow the business, to grow the bottom line, but also maintain fierce brand loyalty and fierce fandom with the people who have already invested in some of our tech. And I would say probably we have a hidden third strategy, which is we like to disrupt. We like to impress and sometimes, I don't want to say frighten, but sometimes maybe intimidate competitors with our disruptiveness and our innovation. So that's kind of the SE life and the role that I fill. It's kind of a senior SE position, but I've arrived at kind of a specialty set of skills, and I've kind of worked myself into a niche opportunity where I'm an SE, but I specialize in a certain. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, and I like. I like how you said it so simply, and it's probably what I should have said. Well, none of us have SE as our title, direct title. We're all still pre-sales, right? We're still all going for that mission, right, and helping them. And then one other thing I wanted to add is that, I should have said this a long time ago. All three of us are really on the same team, the same larger team at Pure Storage, right? We're all on the strategy and solutions team. So kind of we bring that up because Tristan was talking about up-leveling and enablement, and we all have kind of that same goal as part of strategy and solutions, right? Really think strategically with solutions. So we have a lot of the same marching orders. The difference is, Tristan, you're our subject matter expert in platforms, right? So we're not necessarily experts in anything. We go to Tristan when we need that expertise, right? Or vice versa. But yeah, we're all working together on strategy and solutions and trying to up-level the whole org together, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think everybody in tech, no matter what your role is, you need to understand the ones and zeros if you're a techie, but you also need to understand what is the business or organizational impact of those ones and zeros doing certain things. And if you can't translate between the geekery and the business value, maybe you won't have a lot of value fluidly throughout an organization. So I think it makes sense to aspire to understand, like, hey, I'm working on speeding up backup performance overnight. Well, what impact does that have on the organization that you work for, that you're part of? If you're a business, maybe it's keeping the business safer. Maybe it's protecting or being defensive against malware attacks. If you're a nonprofit, it could be about providing service to the community, and greater services. So I think it's always good as a geek to reflect on, hey, I'm installing the new software, I'm upgrading, I'm making something highly available. What business impact does that have? Because at the end of the day, that's kind of the value that you're affecting to the people who pay your salary.
It's another great point. I think I've brought up. I won't get into it deep here because I think I've brought it up a few times on here. But that's really when I kind of switched majors to generalist and started taking some business classes with my IT classes, was when I really started getting interested in those types of things and started moving my career into more that. Let's talk not just IT in my cubicle, but let's talk business outcomes, right? And that got me to enterprise architect and then obviously where I'm at today. So it's a great point.
Super cool.
So with that, are you having fun, and any tips for enjoying these roles for those out there?
Well, I mean, I show up at work every day, and I'm in it to a certain degree for the fun, and I have to have a certain degree of fun every day. There's got to be some laughter. There's got to be some gentle kidding. There's got to be bad dad humor and jokes. If I'm on the road, if I'm on the road, and you guys both know this, there will be good food, right? And maybe good beverage. But I spend a lot of my time in my work role. A lot of my waking hours are focused on work. And so I like to make it fun. I like to make it positive. I like to lift other people up. I like to, in some cases, entertain people, give them a different experience than they're getting from other vendors, maybe. Try to be maybe not 45 minutes of PowerPoint for every 1 hour call, maybe not do that. And so what I'm enjoying is just kind of the latitude that, my current employer affords me to do the job in the way that I want to do it. To really fixate on customers, really ask a lot of inquisitive, make a lot of inquiries, be inquisitive with the customer and learn what they're doing and how we can help things, and be very forthright, be very pragmatic about the advice that I give based on technology. We're playing a game here, as technologists. It is a game. And you have to learn the rules of the game. You have to learn, how to not necessarily win the game, but do really well, but not tear yourself up, destroy your personal life. You have to learn how to balance your work and your life and experience joy every day. Sometimes work is hard, and sometimes it's a slog. But you got to find, maybe it's the end of a really long, brutal day, that there's a little bit of gallows humor with one of your colleagues on Slack. Zane and I many times have ended a busy, stressful day where we just kind of snipe at each other over Slack for maybe 30, 45 seconds. And he, maybe he kids me about something. I think he commented on my bald head at one point, and it was the kind of chuckle that I needed at the end of the long day. And we've known each other a while. We can do that, but little things like that. Finding ways to not take it that seriously.
That good when
Well, I mean, it's okay, and I like that kind of gentle ribbing. But my point is, you can't take it too seriously. You always have to remember at the end of the day, it's a game. It's a serious game. It's your career, but make it fun. Find some joy. Find a way to bring balance to your work life. It's critical.
Well, remember, it's full of people, and your customers are people, and you're people, and there's that aspect of it.
And people are awesome, and sometimes they're not. So.
Yeah. I like the dad humor part. I measure that on, like, if any the three of us can make my 8-year-old roll his eyes, like that's a great day, right? He's like, oh, that joke. So. Well, this is
the best. Your best is when your kids actually give you dad jokes. You're like, I think I've done a good job, or maybe
come
not.
back
maybe
from school with it.
Yeah.
The apprentice.
That's where my
from
kids
the
are.
master.
All right.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, Tristan, this has been awesome. I appreciate all of it. If there's anything else you want to tell us before we sign off, please do. And if not, Zane, I'll let you. You can ask your closing question.
Oh yeah.
You do.
And maybe have we covered this yet? It might have already been in here, but
Sure.
yeah, we usually end it with.
Sure.
I give everybody an out, right? I always tell everybody, I give everybody an out. It could be what's the biggest thing you learn in your career, but I think we've covered a lot of that.
Sure.
It's really what we ask is what's the biggest mistake that you've learned from, and maybe it is intended to be a mistake that you made. Usually, it's in the IT realm, or maybe one that you've been around or seen or learned from, that maybe change your career.
Sure.
That you learn from,
Yeah. So I touched on this earlier, and people listening to the podcast will they're probably like recognizing when I did this thing. But imagine if you were flying a jet. You're flying maybe an F-16, right? And you get some engine over temp alarms, and maybe there's a little bit of smoke in the cockpit, and you immediately reach up to the eject lever and pull the eject handle, and you punch out. When you maybe could have saved the plane. Well, in my career, I've learned that sometimes just because you're stressed out and frustrated doesn't mean you have to just pull the eject lever. Sometimes you need to see if you can just wait it out, maybe find some level ground where you could put the plane down, maybe put it into the ocean, but don't make a really rash decision. And I've made a few of those, and there's some people that are listening to this podcast that are shaking their head going, yeah, that guy, what a quitter. But I've learned in my career, sometimes
like
you have
a few.
Yeah. So you have to kind of stick it out sometimes. You have to weather the storm. Okay. And we said it before, in tech, things change. So sometimes maybe you're in a bad situation, but every 6 months there's a tectonic change, and things will, if you stick in place, things will get better. You just have to wait it out a little bit. That's important. That's an important thing I've learned in my career. Probably the biggest mistake I've made is ejecting from that plane when I should have tried to
calm down, be rational.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that one because I've had many inner dialogues when I was in IT. Problems are happening. I'm trying to put out the fires. The people are every 2 seconds asking me what's going on. And I'm like, if I just left right now, could I just find another job if I just took this off the resume? What if I just got up and left? then you get back into it. Gives you a second. You're like, okay, this is how I'm going to settle this. And then, to be honest, to your point, I was really, and maybe it's a sickness, and that's why we're in IT.
Yeah.
Was really excited at the end when I did solve the problem, and I was like, "Oh, that was amazing! I'm going to do this again."
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been there. What if I just left? What would happen?
Yeah,
I can figure it out.
Hey, sometimes on Mondays we all have that same thought.
Punch out. I like it.
Yeah. Should I reach for the eject lever and just go for it? But sometimes you just
In your 20s, it's a lot easier too. When
yeah,
except for your 40s maybe. But
yeah, that is true. But I will say that sticking it out, and sometimes kind of realizing that pain is sometimes temporary in these things. That sometimes it's better just to kind of weather the storm, or it's better to weather the storm, but actually talk to people and say, I'm stressed, I'm frustrated, I'm tired, I'm angry. To actually bring those conversations up, because a lot of times we don't have those conversations with bosses and with teams, and we need to get better about that, all of us, of just saying, you know what, this sucks, and let me tell you why.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm getting better at it, but it's taken a
before
career.
It comes to a point where you got to punch out, right?
Yeah.
If you do that slowly.
It's only taken me 25 years to
it.
figure that one out. So
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. That's why we do this.
There
you go.
That's
why we
some
do
of the hope, right? Yeah. Share some knowledge.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been great. I'm glad we finally got to do this, Tristan, and it's on us that we made you wait.
No, it's all right.
This
It's a pleasure, guys.
Again, I agree with Chris. Maybe you've had a little more time in the role. Maybe this is better, right? You got a lot more time to kind of reflect up to this point. So
Yeah, absolutely.
we're going to say that this was all planned.
Yeah, there you go.
It's better right there.
Yeah. I know you guys have a plan. I know you work off that plan, so I got it.
Yeah. Don't question the plan.
Yeah, my wife would be happy if I planned less. I'm the planner. She discusses.
That is true. He's the planner.
Yeah.
But he plans so many things that we never have time to do this. So, I have to.
That's true. That's true. Nah,
There it is. There's that ribbing. There's that banter. Right.
And with that, that's the perfect way to end it. No, this has been fantastic, Tristan. Thanks so much, like Zane said, and thank you for all of you listening out there. Hopefully, you're learning something through these episodes, and please, feel free to let us know other topics, what you want to hear about the journey. If you have any questions about being an SE, that's what we're
share your story.
Yep. Let us know. Yeah. That's what we're here for. All right, guys. Thanks so much. And we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Right.
Cheers.
Thanks for the